Welcome home, brave heroes. I'm Ash, this is HashQuest, and way before Loki battle mats, there was another tool for immersing yourself fully into your tabletop role-playing games. This is Dungeon Rooms, a role-playing aid for dungeon adventures made by Games Workshop way back in 1986. The astute of you will already have observed that the illustrated rooms on the cover of the box do not feature any sort of grid. There are no squares to be seen, and that's fine for a supplement that is meant to enhance games that rely on the theater of the mind, rather than board game dungeon crawlers. Dungeon Rooms is kind of an offshoot, or a part of a larger product really, of their Dungeon Floor Plans line. They were a little more on the nose, with their grid system included onto the tiles and artwork. Also available in this range were the Caverns and Halls of Horror sets. I knew what I was looking at when I saw the listing for this, and I knew that I had to have it. Welcome to Dungeon Rooms, a new concept in fantasy role-playing game aids, featuring this barcode and the artists Tony Ackland, Dave Andrews, and Colin Dixon. The set contains 12 sheets of stout cardboard, 200mm by 280mm, or the size of this box, which incidentally is the exact XY dimensions as all of the other games they were making in this time. So you could buy this and then slide it perfectly into your shelf alongside Talisman 2nd Edition, Blood Bowl 1st Edition, Dungeon Quest, The Fury of Dracula, Warrior Knights, and all of those. And the following rooms and features are included in this box: the Torture Chamber, the Gladiatorial Pit, the Apothecary, the Treasure Room, the Throne Room, the Armory, the Necromancer's Study, and many more that we're actually going to just look at up close here shortly. There are no less than 23 ready-made special rooms for use in your adventures, with lengths of corridor to link them together. Simply cut the card sheets into individual rooms and you're ready to go. Well, we'll see about that. Yes, the original kind of moldy postcard, addressed to Chewton Street. I can smell the mildew. My copy of the Dungeon Rooms guide is quite a bit. It's dingy. It is very, very dingy. I have to wonder what kind of conditions the box was kept in, and no shade towards the original owners, of course. But I always have to wonder whenever I see the rusty staples. I might remove those and re-staple this, since I do have a saddle stitcher. Why would there need to be a guide or a manual for use with the Dungeon Rooms? Well, that's very easy. The reason is because this is Games Workshop, and they're going to take every opportunity they can to make you aware of their other fine products. Welcome to Dungeon Rooms, a new concept, and I already read that. They're just repeating themselves. If you've ever struggled with a description of a room as your player characters have burst through the door, then Dungeon Rooms are the answer to your problem. 22 of the most common dungeon locations are depicted in full color, with all the furniture, implements, and other clutter you would expect in a designer lair. These are usable with any fantasy role-playing game, this guide says. This set provides a number of ready-made special rooms for use in your adventures, and can be used again and again. Dungeon Rooms can be combined with dungeon floor plans and Citadel miniatures to make your adventures really come to life. Yeah, there it is. I'm surprised it took them a whole 20 seconds. You can use your dungeon rooms in any way you like, but one particular method is to use them as the feature areas for your dungeons. To help you plan a dungeon complex out, the opposite page has the various rooms in small scale. So that's pretty useful. They didn't have to do that, but that's very, very helpful. We have an example dungeon here linked together by corridors. And what I really love about this guide and its true purpose is to give you an idea of the possibilities for dungeon rooms. We have laid on a tour which will take you around the fictional home of Count Raven of Bad Excel. You could use the descriptions in your next gaming session or alter them to suit your particular needs. Complete NPC profiles for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay are included to show the kind of occupant you might find in each location. Now, over to your guide, that halfling about town, Pot Noodle Turner. Pot Noodle Turner. And here we start at the Torture Chamber. Well, we might as well go on this tour together. Here are our sheets. I don't know that I would call them stout cardboard. They are very flimsy, kind of floppy, just thick enough to give you that satisfying thunder. You know, the art is, it's good. It is very on point. It's thematic. I can't think of any suggestions as to make it better, but it is slightly more simplistic than I would have expected. And maybe this is common to the style of all the products in the floor plans range. That isn't to say that it isn't detailed. It's not unsuitable. These are fine, immersive little rooms that will answer pretty much any question your players could have about a particular setting or a particular room, although we do have the complaint that I always have. I always saddle the products with this complaint, and that is we have a lot of baked on details. That's not really gonna matter so much in a role-playing game where it's theater of the mind. These are ready-made rooms you're plopping down, and it's very easy to say, as the dungeon master, dragon master, games master, whatever kind of master you end up being, that just pretend these coffins aren't there. Our corridors they're fine. You actually have the option to cut them out in 1 width, 2, 3, or 4 width tiles, and you'll be left with whatever you're left with, but it's really nice to have that flexibility. Obviously, the answer to needing more of these is just to buy a second copy of the box. So I'm surprised they haven't suggested that yet. As I said, there are no grids. That's because this is not supposed to necessarily be compatible with dungeon crawl games like Advanced HeroQuest, Mighty Warriors, and the like. That's mainly because those games hadn't come out yet, but I'll go ahead and read out the description of the torture chamber. Hey, look at that. It looks like, incidentally, some of these rooms will have tiles for the aesthetic, and you could definitely use these tiles for movement. But as you can see, that is not the majority of the time. You have a few of them, though, and I really do think that the feature is more incidental. It's more thematic to the room, because there were actually rooms constructed where these, what would the standard be, 2.5 meter by 2.5 meter tile would be placed. You could obviously, if you really wanted to use these in a grid system, just take a piece of plexiglass or something and draw a grid of your preference over it and then overlay it on top of the tile, just to give you some ideas. But without further ado, let me give you the tour for the torture chamber, and then we'll look at all these rooms in more detail. Ah, the torture chamber. What better place to start our tour? Pause for a moment to savor the atmosphere. That distinctive aroma of singed flesh, the screams of the victims. It's a real pleasure to watch a professional at work. The Count has installed a first-rate torture chamber within screaming range of his favorite armchair, completely fitted out with the very latest and state-of-the-art interrogation technology. The rack, the Iron Maiden, a comprehensive range of braziers and hot irons, and, of course, the block and axe for that finishing touch. Naturally, the Count has not spared any expense in staff either. This facility is lovingly operated by Throdin the Twister, Dwarven Torturer. His skills are heal wounds, immunity to disease, immunity to poison, palm object, specialist weapon, whip, and torture. Throdin's favorite device is the toe cracker. Oh my god. A pincer-like object which he applies with great effect to the feet of a victim, lowering the victim's WP by a further 5% on top of adjustments for his torture skill. Throdin's is a lonely life, however, and it is well known that he spends far too much time playing patient with a marked deck and drinking cheap stallion wine straight from the bottle. There have been times when Throdin has been slightly the worse for wear through drink, negative 10% on all percentage attributes, which probably accounts for the accident he had with the occupant of the guest room, who starved to death a while ago. Throdin may be very careful with his equipment, but he avoids doing the cleaning whenever he can. So that is just a sample of not only the room description, but the extremely overly detailed character description. It doesn't really line this guy out necessarily as a monster or an enemy. He is somebody that you could perhaps bargain with. He has all of his Warhammer fantasy roleplay stats right here, many stats. And then we go on to the guard room, which will have its flavor text, a picture just to remind you very quickly of which one it is, and then who all is going to be in it. In this one's going to be Petor, Garp, and No-Nose Alexei, human bodyguards. Alexei? This book is arranged in columns, so the next column is the Wizard's Study, and you have the flavor text for the Wizard's Study, and Theophilus Faustman, Wizard. It doesn't break this convention until the 5th column, the Necromancer's Study. We have a lot more detail, a lot more self-indulgent writing, which, to be fair, I really enjoy Games Workshop's creative writing aspect on all of their manuals whenever it is present. I think that it's a great way to enhance somebody's understanding, their first impression of whatever it is that they're looking at. There are a couple of games, non-Games Workshop games, where this is used to great effect, like the Xanth board game, which its manual was written by Piers Anthony and has just about every Piers Anthonyism you can expect to find in such a manual. It does not read like any other game manual. This is a little bit different because we are being led on a guided tour by a character who has his own kind of personality, but it's the exact same mindset, and I love it. So the book goes on like this, detailing the throne room, temple with statues, mausoleum, which doesn't have any any people in it. They could have had a robber hiding in the shadows or a skeleton, something like that. We also have the forge, which has nothing. No blurb, no nothing. Then it goes right on to the apothecary. Convention is out the window. I'm going to read you the one for the kitchen before we... Whoa, it doesn't even have a picture of the kitchen. What the heck? Well, we already looked at the kitchen, but I will read you the blurb for it. Aha! My favorite room. Let's spend a moment here to savor the unique atmosphere of this wonderful chamber, and spend a moment looking through the cupboards before the cook gets back. The kitchen is the friendliest room in the house, I always say, and this is no exception. I remember the night we cut the head off an 8-foot chicken, and it ran around the kitchen smoking after we set fire to it, trying to bite off our heads by way of revenge. Oh, you had to be there. Those of us who fought the headless chicken and lived had a really good laugh, I can tell you. This is the weirdest little halfling I've ever met. Alright, so let's get a better look at these rooms. We have the temple. Seemingly only one way in, but you could just as easily set up some corridors outside, perhaps hidden behind a wall behind the statue. Oh, and these are not double-sided, by the way. The armory. Lots of shields, suits of armor, crossbows, even a cannon and a ballista. Helmets galore, all kinds of halberds and pokey, spiky type weapons. A few swords on the table. Wonder what's under the table. The forge. It occurs to me it'd be very easy to cut these rooms to where the outlines fit to scale with whatever game that you'd like to play, and just set up like your own 3D door or standee or what have you on the side, or even a door tile. And when the characters walk on tiles to get to the room itself doesn't have to have tiles because they would be irrelevant. This is now just a safe room, and if your characters land in it, it's as if they are in one space that they can all share. The mausoleum, this is a big one. I did say you could overlay your own grid, and if you were really destructive, you could go ahead and just take a pencil and draw out the lines on the room itself. I would never recommend that, but I suppose if you've bought several boxes of the same thing, then you might be tempted to do it. We've already looked at the torture chamber, but just look at its fine details one more time before we move on to the guard room. Guard room is pretty cool. Got like kind of an office back here. Here's a little waiting area. It seems, well, no, there's a bedroll back there. But this is where you could write a bunch of scenarios, actually. I was going to correct myself, but I think that while there is an intention for the way this is set up, you have a lot of different ways you could set this up. This does look like the common area where the guard or guards would be able to sit, play cards, drink, eat, and then go to bed. There is only one bedroll. The narrative sets up exactly what this is and how it's all used and stuff. I believe they said that chamber pot gets emptied once a week. Once every other week, sorry. These are the barracks. Oh, this is where you go to sit and play games. These losers are playing checkers. Well, sort of. There's like brown and white and black pieces, so maybe it's some kind of weird, but like pestilence checkers, where you could infect a piece on the board. I just made that up. We've got some pokers, a fireplace, several beds, which are just crates. They're just planks. These guys must have the straightest backs, though, to be comfortable. The wizard's study is next. Enter this room and fight the great wizard. Could be the great warlock, the great sorcerer, the great conjurer. We've got arcane symbols on the ornately detailed rug and a depiction of an eclipse. Next up is the library. Only one way in. A chair for reading, research, study, and walls of books. I can tell you now that these are very large tomes to be taking up so much space on each shelf. I can also tell you I have way more books than this. I can tell you that at a glance. Next up is the apothecary. This is just a lovely little detail. We've got the chest in the corner, writing scribbled on top of a cabinet, chest of drawers rather. This here though, this is what I really like. The easy access way behind the counter, so you could have an alchemist or whoever behind this counter, or perhaps you the customer come into the room and you must be behind this counter while the alchemist does all the work behind it. Next up is the well. That's it. It's just a well. It's a room with a well in it. If that's how your Skaven spawn out into the dungeon, so be it. And this is how your Skaven exit the dungeon, the dragon's lair. Many, many fallen adventurers here, and one of the eggs is cracked. Doesn't have to be a dragon's egg, it could be eggs that the dragon stole from another creature. The orc den is a lovely addition to this set. We've got some bedding here, some crude weapons, a fire. They're ready to spill out of this thing, go attack. We've got an opening here, but what looks to be a very thin wall, perhaps an implied opening here, some water that they could cross over really quickly. We have a stairwell up next. Really liking the perspective on this. Really like the perspective of all these overall. We are looking straight down into the room, and we kind of have this Legend of Zelda outward curve on all of the walls. It's not a curve, it's a slant dash. We have the gladiatorial pit here, and they're not going to be pulling any tricks climbing out of the sides with all these spikes guarding the top. In this corner, we've got the gladiator coming out to face. There's no other door. It's kind of awkward. Your opponent has to come out the same door. Then we've got these areas, which I don't know what those are for. It's like the VIP seats. This is the Great Hall. It is really cool to see this. It's like they didn't have to go that hard. They didn't have to have such a large room, but no, this is very entertaining. It's so fun to just sit and look at these. Checking out the treasure room next, that is a huge chest. Oh, there's a lot of huge chests in here, actually. I feel like I'm at anime Hooters all over again. This is the alchemist's laboratory. This is where medieval Dexter does all of his turning of various materials into gold, which never works. He keeps making like this useless stuff called warpstone. He just tosses it out the window. We did look at the corridor sheet already. Corridors and tunnels. But next up is the bedroom. What a cozy, comfy bedroom it is. It's got all the fixins. Drawers, cabinet, chest, bed, place to sit, to read, to study, to guard. You can place your exits and entrances anywhere you'd like around this room, really. We've got the mortuary next, and this one's just horrifying. We have all of these bodies under these sheets. One of them even has a toe tag. And then this skeleton on the operating table. I suppose he is getting a medieval autopsy, but they left the eyeballs in the skull, so he is like, help! Next up is the throne room, and yep, the throne is right across this narrow sort of bridge over a bottomless pit. There are rules in the book that tell you how deep this pit is and why it's here, more or less. Is so when you request an audience with the Count, you will be standing here, and you'd better get to the point, and you'd better hope that he likes what you have to say, or his minions will push you into the pit. You can climb out of it if you survive. It's fitting to end this tour with the Necromancer's Study. We have a giant skull, which I swear I've seen before elsewhere in this line of products from this time period. Maybe it really reminds me of something I've seen at Advanced HeroQuest. A well or a bottomless pit or something here. Stairs up to a desk with what looks like ritualistic dagger, a pair of coffins, a place for a little peace, quiet, a little raising of the dead. Alright, so I got really curious because these look like Mighty Warriors tiles, and I wanted to see if any of them mimicked the art from the Mighty Warriors tiles. Yes, I have Mighty Warriors. No, I haven't looked at it on the channel yet because I lack the appropriate Skaven with shields. It turns out that that is exactly the art on the Mighty Warriors tiles. Yeah, in comparing the two, it's the exact same image. The torture chamber is literally MW5 in Mighty Warriors, the dungeon. Roll a 5 or 6 to climb the spiked iron fence. Now I hear you saying, Ash, that's the one that happens to have tiles, so this is not a trend you're going to see anymore. Nay, I say. The very next tile, MW6 from Mighty Warriors, is the guard room. And so there you have it. All of these pictures have already been used in a game, and boy, that's not accurate to say at all, is it? These are copyright 1991, so it's actually much more accurate to say that Mighty Warriors used existing artwork to inform its rooms and its room layout. I am a huge fan of that. I love that. I don't mind it being reused art at all, because I think that there is so much potential with the grid system overlaying these rooms. Now, I brought out Mighty Warriors because I always kind of thought that these would be compatible with this system, and that's what was running through my head when I bought these. I had no idea it was the same art. That's not to say that everything in Mighty Warriors is just this set of rooms. It's not. The Skaven Lair, for example, which actually does have a copyright of 91 on this tile. And that means nothing because the Wizard Study is the exact same picture from the Dungeon Rooms box, and it also has a copyright 91. Maybe it does count as new artwork because of the grid. So that does tell me that this is probably from one of their other dungeon floor plan systems, probably the Caverns one. Still though, I happen to really like that. That's cool. If you're trying to get yourself some really cheap Mighty Warriors extra rooms, and I don't know why you would unless you were really wanting to homebrew some Mighty Warriors, then yeah, getting the dungeon floor plans seems like the way to go. Alright, because I can, I'm going to show you some of these rooms in their tiled Mighty Warriors versions before we hang this up. But the gang is all here. We've got the library. Maybe that's where I was seeing that skull. Oh, and don't worry, as soon as I get the appropriate miniatures, we'll be going over Mighty Warriors in the future. This is another one that's not included with the Dungeon Rooms pack, but probably is included with one of the other packs. We've also got a couple of really big rooms here, namely the Great Hall, which does take after its Dungeon Rooms source material. But now we have helpful tiles, not just on the floor, but exactly where they should be when you're going up the stairs. And the Ancient Temple, which I sadly do not have a non-grid copy of. It's not really sad. It is so funny to me that I did buy these actually to use with Mighty Warriors at some point, and now I literally cannot. My other plan was to look through my Advanced HeroQuest box and see if any of the art was reused there, because I couldn't remember if any of the dungeon rooms were particularly detailed in that way. They're not at all, in the slightest. I'm now wondering if any of this artwork is contained in any dungeon floor plan or in any of the products in that line of products. All in all, very much worth it for me. I got a kick out of that, and I do appreciate that these are compatible with the Dungeon Floor Plans line, which does sometimes include gridded tiles. The one complaint that I have is that these are just a teensy tiny bit too big to fit back in this box. They have to be at a slant. So of course when I got them, they were all slightly slanted. Now I wonder if that's because the box has suffered some kind of shrinking. I don't think that's the case though. But it really would be nothing to take these to a guillotine cutter and just go ahead and slice off that 1 or 2 millimeters of extra space, which is just going to be empty and black, in order to get it to fit correctly into this box, nice and flat, the way Sigmar intended. Thank you so much for this exciting journey with me and for your kind attention, brave heroes. I will see you in the next adventure. Until then, please let me know what you thought about this down below. I bid you a fantastic rest of your day, and until next time, onward.